The Adult Potato is an internet-based parody cartoon series that integrates factual events and locales with fictional characters for the purpose of satire and comedic commentary. Any resemblance of these fictional characters to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental and not intentional unless specifically stated. Despite the factual nature of some content, the series should not be interpreted as a reliable source of news or factual information. The creators, producers, and distributors of The Adult Potato expressly disclaim any liability for misunderstandings or actions taken based on the show's content. This show is intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh, and don't worry about what's going on behind me. This is a controlled burn for training purposes. No facilities or firefighters were harmed in the making of this video. Although I did scrape my stupid knee climbing up on these barrels.
Welcome back to The Adult Potato. I'm Spencer Lotka. First off, let's give a shout-out to the Board of Trustees for piling through over 2,000 pages and hours of video filled with both technical crap and bitching and moaning over the asphalt plant. Both sides had good reasons for voting the way they did, and throwing the Planning Commission under the bus was pretty much the only way to legally do it when it comes to the setbacks. But if you check the video that we posted on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, you'll see that the Planning Commission was specifically told by staff that they could not change the setbacks. Yet the board is saying that they were in error by not changing the setbacks. Check out the video. It's a compilation from the June meeting and is about 5 minutes long, showing multiple times and ways that they were not allowed to touch the setbacks. Or you can watch 4.5 hours of the June meeting, plus the 2 previous meetings where they were told the same thing. Either way, the vote is what the vote is. Some will be happy, some will not. But people in the town were heard, and that's vitally important to the health of the town and the trust that they have for the trustees. And if it took throwing someone under the bus to do it, so be it. But don't you be doing that. Watch the video and realize that the blame still goes to the Board of Adjustments, not the Planning Committee. On to the fire district. It's said that those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So let's spend a little time learning from the history of the fire district so we don't make the same mistakes. And to help this sink in a little for some of us, let's look way back to earlier times where Proverbs 11:2 said, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom." So the district has had a bit of disgrace. Let's hope the current board has some humility so we can get to the wisdom part. In other words, less hubris, more learning. Sure, the board has its proverbial brick wall up because it's catching a lot of heat for things that they're doing. But has it once sent out a district-wide survey to even find out the concerns of the taxpayers in the district? Other than public comment, there hasn't been much good faith shown in finding out what the concerns are and why we have those concerns. They haven't been proactive in that sense. They're just assuming that they know what needs to be done. And, to be honest, nobody else is rushing to be on the board. So we get what we get. Let's go back to around 2013 or so, when the board, at the time, decided to change from an all-volunteer department to a paid one. Because that's when the problem started. It's not that it was a bad idea, but looking back with 2020 vision, it's clear that the timeline and implementation of that idea turned out to be a steeper climb than we anticipated. There were mistakes made, so let's learn from them. First off, never have a low bar when it comes to the person or people handling the finances. Just because someone knows how to do the books for a commercial business doesn't mean they can do the books for a governmental entity. Government accounting practices are far more complex, and if they don't know the rules, like the percentage of total operating expenses allowed for lease purchases, you're screwed. Without that knowledge, you're immediately getting into trouble. You get what you pay for. And in our case, not hiring a firm or government finance specialist as we made that move from volunteer to paid fire department got the fire district into a bad place pretty quickly. We also learned about what we can and can't use impact fees for and, in that worst-case scenario where impact fees are dipped into, how long we have to reimburse that account. Commingling. We learned a lot about commingling of funds, and what we 100% learned was that we do not want one person to represent the financials to the board, because that is where things went really bad. Full financials need to be available on at least a quarterly basis for the public to view. Looking back to where the problems began, whether Chief Green simply made a bad hiring decision or more nefarious things were afoot, things went south fast. And that is where the town of Wellington could have learned a lesson from the fire district. We have had some low bars when it comes to the hiring of the people that take care of the town's money. The last person hired before bringing in a consultant was done because she was the only person that applied. Yes, the board and the town administrator interviewed her and took a chance on her, but look where that got us. I'm sure she thought she could handle it, and I'm sure she gave it her best shot. But Wellington, let's stop with the lowering the bar bullshit. If we can't find someone with the specific experience and knowledge for the position, don't lower the bar. These positions require professionals. They're not training positions. Pay the piper and get a firm or agency to do the job. I think we can all say that the town and the fire district will be in a better place because of it. We have to do what we have to do when it comes to protecting the taxpayers' money. The fire district learned that lesson the hard way, and so did Wellington's Board of Trustees and the town administrator. At this point, we are using third parties to handle the finance responsibilities for both groups. Let's make sure we remember this lesson far into the future. Like I said, the previous board brought in a third party that has extensive experience working with other fire departments to do the accounting for us and provide us with fire district-specific best practice, unbiased financial advice to aid in our decision-making process. This independent advice is crucial to validating that the financial decisions being made are sound and more than just one person's opinion being sold to the public or decision-makers. Remember, thanks to previous decisions, the fire district no longer has any cash reserves to back their poor financial decisions, has been relying on borrowing money to keep the ship afloat, and still owes the taxpayers over $300,000 in back taxes. So that was a big step forward. We can move forward knowing that we learned from that part of that specific mistake. Our accounting is now outsourced to a new firm. While we think the change in the bylaws that states the treasurer shall work with the financial consultants before all financial statements are included in the board packet is a little sketchy. We understand that the pure reasoning for this is to catch mistakes. But we also understand that it is also the reason that the previous accounting firm dropped us. Because that previous firm knew that everything started because one person controlled the financials, that the board saw. And that's not true transparency. We'd rather see the mistake is from an accounting firm and the treasurer correcting those mistakes. We're not saying that the treasurer is doing anything wrong. We're just saying that history has shown us that the exact thing that we have now put in the bylaws, that one person controls what the board sees, is what got us into trouble in the first place. We have not completely learned from the mistakes of the past. So that whole Proverbs thing about with humility comes wisdom isn't kicking in there. On top of finance issues, switching from all volunteers to paid firefighters was incredibly expensive and took a lot of manpower to set up. It's a Herculean task, especially if you don't bring in consultants that have done it successfully in the past to help. Without that experience, things get put into motion too quickly, and costs start snowballing from something manageable to an avalanche of expenses that need to be paid immediately, and then the serious trouble begins. And by trouble, I mean selling things to pay for operating costs that soared out of control. While best intentions for the district may have been at the heart of the decisions made, best intentions don't pay the bills. Maybe the board did bring in a consultant for the transition, or they just relied on the experience of the chief they hired. Either way, the results were near catastrophic. Back to more mistakes from the past, doing big things quickly because of retention problems. This got us into big trouble. This was a big part of the money pit, and this is where the union president needs to do some research so he knows that we've gone this route before, and throwing money at firefighters without balancing that with the mill levy caused a world of hurt. We've voted in 2 increases in the recent past, one to just under 15 mills, and the other was a market adjustment a couple years later. Do not ask us for another one. We are a small district, and even though we've been around for over a century, we haven't been paying firefighters that long. It's going to take us at least another decade to get to the point that we're a department where people will transfer to instead of transfer from. Don't rush it and dig us into another hole. The challenge Wellington has, and will continue to face long into the future, is the limited growth potential to allow for a similar revenue stream that fire departments like PFA, Loveland Fire, and Berthoud enjoy. Compare their size to the size of our coverage area, 288 square miles, and the fact that almost all of those other agencies are located such that they share borders with other paid, well-trained, full-time fire departments. Wellington only borders with PFA along the southern border and Cheyenne Fire at the far northeast edge. Everything else is with volunteer fire departments. This is not to imply that we can't count on our volunteer fire department mutual aid partners. It's just a fact that their members all have other full-time jobs and are often limited in their availability to provide the type of assistance that full-time paid fire departments can provide during times of need. As far as pay goes, the math is simple. We can pay every full-timer less money or provide less benefits. Alternatively, we can pay less full-time employees either more pay or more benefits, and then we supplement those full-time employees with reserve, part-time, or student firefighters who are starting out in their careers and looking to gain valuable experience, which can lead them to a full-time career in the future, with Wellington or elsewhere. This would mean less members in the new union and less power for the union leaders, however. Trying to be a Poudre Fire Authority without acknowledging the specific challenges of our fire district is pure hubris. And according to Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. So it looks like we're heading for another fall, if not destruction, unless the board swallows their pride, starts looking at the numbers instead of listening to the union president, and realizes that we're going to lose some people. So how about we settle in and ground ourselves in, learning how to be a small, efficient department that is proud to be the first step for many in their firefighting careers, while retaining some amazing firefighters that go above and beyond to become the leaders of the future of our department? And each year we take on another step to improve and grow without throwing money at a problem, when what we need to be doing is building up our reserves and paying down our debt. All businesses face losing employees. You train an employee. They make the department run like a fine-oiled machine, and then they go somewhere else to advance and learn more. It happens everywhere, and it definitely happens in the world of first responders, and especially in our current financial environment. Math is math, and location is location. It's going to be a very long time before we can compete with the more established fire departments in our area. We need to accept that and be the best of the best within the limitations that we have, and be ready to expand as the numbers and population expand. No conspiracy theories here, just looking at things rationally and, dare I say it, conservatively. So fewer full-time firefighters with higher pay and back fill with reserve, part-time, or student firefighters, or more full-time employees with lower pay or benefits. It's not that hard of a choice to make. We just need to accept that we are where we are and work within our limitations and stop trying to be something that we're not. Put the boastfulness aside, and when the circumstances change, we can change with them. Less than a decade ago, we were a volunteer fire department. Why are we trying to leapfrog ahead into a circumstance that reality doesn't support? Firefighters, we support you, and we celebrate your success if you choose to leave for other opportunities. We're not going to slap golden handcuffs on you to keep you here, but we'll support you as best that we can while you are here. As in any industry, Some of you will stay for decades, while some will move on and learn from other departments. Everyone has their own path, and we honor all of them. This may not be the department that you stay in forever, but we will always be a home for you. That's it for this episode. Have a great Labor Day and make sure those doors are locked.